Are you tired of self-doubt holding you back? Have you ever wished you could have the confidence to face your fears, go after your wildest dreams, and the tools necessary to live your best life? Hey there, amazing listeners. I'm your host and author of How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power, and I've made it my mission to help you break free from self-doubt and embrace confidence. Subscribe now and join us as we unlock the secrets to unshakable self-assurance. Let's dive in. Hello, my name is Tara LaFawn Gooch. I'm the host of Grasp Confidence Podcast. I'm also a two-time best-selling author, CEO, and international TEDx speaker. I would love for you to join this conversation today as Kelly Buckley interviews me and I interview her. Kelly, please introduce yourself.
This is going to be so much fun. My name is Kelly Buckley, and I am an author and motivational speaker, and I have a background in healthcare management. And my message is about gratitude. So Tara and I, we both use gratitude to create both confidence and hope and resilience. So we're going to have an awesome conversation today. So let's jump in.
I love that. Well, gratitude has always been something, in the past, I would say it was always something that I didn't relate to. And I think a lot of people can understand that on a concept, Kelly, that, maybe gratitude at this point in their life or a past point in their life has felt out of reach. And I relate to that on a lot of levels because it once felt out of reach to me too. Today I have a TEDx talk called Gratitude, the Foundation of Confidence. I've got a book. The first 3 chapters are about gratitude, but it definitely was not always that way. I remember when it felt like a foreign word and concept.
Yeah.
Do you relate to that at all?
I do 100%. I remember starting initially a gratitude practice it just seemed very superficial now that I look back on it. And I kind of struggled because I think that I guess maybe it was a maturity thing too. I was younger and I had not really found a way to set boundaries for negative thinking. And so when you go through a difficult time, that seems to just surround you completely. And then eventually you figure out, okay, I can set those things aside. I can lay my burdens down and I can look around for the blessings. But that you're right. It didn't come easy to me either. It took me a long time to figure that out. But thank goodness I did.
It's interesting. And even when I was new, I will say new to it, right?
Yep.
And just kind of exploring it. It didn't at first come naturally. And I felt like there was almost some resistance towards it. And I say that because I feel like it could have been maybe some victim mentality that I had, self-sabotaging behavior even, that was telling me all of the things that it might not be. This might not be the answer. This might not be as easy as it sounds. This might not be for me. Yeah. Might not. And I would actually set myself up for failure before I even started.
Yeah.
And it really was just one day I said to myself, you know what? If the placebo effect works, and we know it works.
It does.
Right? What if gratitude is kind of like a placebo effect? Okay. Well, if that's the case, then what's the harm in trying it?
Yeah.
It's free.
Yep.
And it causes no harm. We know this, right? It's an available resource. So I said, okay, I'll just try it. And I'm really glad I got out of my own way at that point and just
Hmm.
gave it a whirl and tried it. Um, but yeah, I would set myself up for failure before I even started by telling me all the ways it wouldn't work before I even tried it. Has that ever happened to you? Or is that
Uh,
just
More times than I want to admit. Um, Actually, in my healthcare management roles, one of the roles I had was I was a director of strategic initiatives and in charge of change management for a merger that we did with a number of hospitals to create one larger region in Western Canada. And so I was working with people who were just waiting to point out what was going wrong. And essentially, my job was to look for things that were going wrong and fix them. So you then start to look through that lens in every aspect of your life. So I would look at a situation, and much like you thinking about the alternatives that could happen, I would say, yeah, that sounds like a really good idea, but here I need to think about plan B, C, D, E, and F just in case. And that sabotaged me. You're absolutely right. You set yourself up for that. So you do have to be, when you make a decision to live a life of gratitude, you have to draw the line in the sand, don't you? You really do. And it's hard to let go of that past behavior because it's been learned over your lifetime.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that is so true. It's letting go of your past and that
Yeah.
past behavior that it feels like an old record playing. You know, the thing about gratitude and before gratitude, I'll just start there before gratitude, because I feel like that's where a lot of the listeners are. Maybe they're at the beginning of that journey.
Mm-hmm.
My life felt like a broken record just spinning around, and it was the same, almost like Groundhog Day. It felt like the same day every single day. You know what? Because it was.
Yeah.
Every single day I was reliving the day before that, the negative thing before that. And it was a rumination of continual marination of negative thoughts playing on that old spinning record. And ultimately, what I needed to get out of my way was a break from that cycle.
Yeah.
And, once I started incorporating gratitude, that was an unexpected outcome. I did not realize it could actually stop the broken record. I just thought it was going to make me happier.
Yeah.
I had no idea it was actually going to change patterns and behavior and habits and outcomes.
Right.
And it's free. And anybody can do this.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. We're promoting a great deal here. Gratitude is 100% free, right? You don't get very many things like that. Do you feel like you talked about, kind of feeling like a broken record, and that really resonates with me. For me, where I found the power of gratitude was when my life fell apart. So what about you? Like, tell me about kind of that, because we all have these forks in the road in our life, right? We're walking along, we're living this life. Maybe we're awake and noticing what's happening. Maybe we're just kind of trudging along with our head down, just trying to get through the day. And then all of a sudden we're at a crossroads and we have choices to make. And so tell me about a time in your life where you were at that crossroads and you chose happiness and gratitude.
Wow. It's always at our lowest point. I wish it wasn't sometimes, but I think we almost have to get there.
Yeah.
And, it's pretty powerful. We look at the night sky, and I encourage everybody to do this tonight because it'll add a lot of perspective. Go out with your family on your front yard, look up at the night sky. And what you'll see is an array of beautiful stars. There's distant planets and galaxies out there far, far beyond our reach. And to us, they look like little tiny dots in the sky, right?
Yeah.
But if we think about it, would we have appreciation for them without the darkness?
Oh, I love that so much.
Would we have
That's right.
appreciation? They would still be there, but we
Right.
wouldn't be able to see them because we can't see them. We can't appreciate them.
Yeah.
That darkness sometimes gives us that perspective, just like the night sky, where we have to experience that dark time in order to really have a deep, profound appreciation for this thing we call gratitude, which is
Yeah.
really just a lifestyle change, honestly.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear your thoughts on that too, because my listeners from my podcast are saying, we know Tara's story, but we don't know Kelly's story.
So, okay. So let's dig in. So I started my gratitude practice, my true gratitude practice. I think I was just dabbling before that, but my true gratitude practice started in the parking lot of a funeral home. And I always call it God's little whisper in my ear. But we received a call on the 4th of July that our son had been swimming at Jordan Lake and was missing. And so we were in Louisville, Kentucky, visiting my husband's parents. And so we immediately jumped in the car and began driving to get to Jordan Lake. And, that was when I was doing my silent conversation with God, negotiating. And,
Yep.
Anyway, we get to the lake that morning, and before they resumed the search, it was about 6 a.m, and I was sitting on this little bump in the sand with my chocolate lab, Rudy. And that was when I had the whisper, like, I have to find things to be thankful for, because to be honest, I felt like I was standing on the edge of an abyss. And it wasn't a fork in the road. It was the edge of an abyss. And if I had to make a choice right then and there. And you know what was interesting for me was, I told you about my background, right? And so I was always a fixer. So this was like a kick in the face for me, really, because I did not have any solutions. None. I was sitting there going, what do I do? And I had never experienced that before. And so that whisper in my ear saved me. It's absolutely saved me to look for gratitude. So that first day, I'll tell you some of the things I was grateful for, and this will give you perspective on gratitude and how you can use it in difficult times. So Stephen was this beautiful, wonderful human being. And I still feel him around me every single day. And my work is Stephen's Ripple. So I had Stephen when I was young, and he was an identical twin, and his brother died shortly after birth. And so one of the things I was grateful for that morning was that they had reunited. Because Stephen's entire life, he always felt like something was missing, and he gravitated towards twins. It was amazing. I can't tell you the number of identical twins that he gravitated towards, and one in particular. And this was before he was old enough for us to really explain to him what had happened. And it was in baseball. And after the game, we were driving home, and he said, you know these boys, and he said their names. I said, yeah, they're great friends of yours. He said, there's something about them that's like me. And I thought that was so amazing, because you read about all of these things with identical twins and the bond that they have. So that was the first thing that I found gratitude in, is that my two boys are reunited back together. Second thing was the divers that found Stephen and allowed me to bring him home. Because the job that they have to do is one of the most difficult things. And they are humans with kids and wives and lives of their own. And they face this trauma selflessly. And so I was incredibly thankful to them. And I actually went over and hugged them and told them thank you. And I don't really think they knew what to do with that, because I'm not sure a lot of people have conversations with them at that particular point. But I felt it was important. The third thing, without going on too long, but the third thing was Stephen's friends and the parents of those friends showed up at that lake and they stayed with us. They did not look away. They stayed with us. And one woman in particular, she gave me this hug, and my mother died when I was 20 years old, and she hugged just like my mother. And it felt like Mom had sent me a hug from heaven. And I was so incredibly thankful for that. So I looked around and I was absolutely just ground into dust. I was so broken. But I could still see there was love and goodness all around me, even though I was devastated. So that was my kind of origin story of, how everything started. This is really how Stephen's Ripple started.
Such a profound story. And for anybody that's listening to this, I thought I knew gratitude, and I told Kelly this when I saw her in person just a little while ago. I told you, I said, Kelly, I thought I knew gratitude. I thought, I teach people gratitude. I have a TED Talk and a book. Apparently, the thing with gratitude is it's a continuous practice. And honestly, it's something you can never truly master because it deepens.
Yes.
It deepens, and it only gets more profound. And I like to think of it as layers of gratitude. So if I think of an onion, I think of all of the different layers of an onion. Mm-hmm. Gratitude, infinitely more depth. There is no core, there is no center that I know of. You just keep being more grateful and more grateful. It's so profound when you think about it that way, isn't it?
It really is. And I love the thing that I've really enjoyed about podcasting and talking to other individuals who are on these beautiful missions is that it's applicable in so many areas of our life. So when I first started this and I first started talking about gratitude publicly, it was specifically how to deal with grief with gratitude. Not everybody understood that message at first, and that's okay. It's a different approach to grief, most definitely. Mm-hmm. But what I love as I talk to more and more people is you see how applicable the practice of gratitude can be in the workplace, and we have so much stress in our lives these days, right? And so gratitude in the workplace with the work that you're doing, the work that I'm doing with the bereaved, the work that other people are doing with people who are struggling with addictions or chronic illness. It applies everywhere. I think about healthcare teams who work in a selfless position. They give and give. And what could gratitude do to transform their team, to transform the leadership of hospitals who are, they have a lot on their shoulders. So it's applicable everywhere. The onion is a perfect example of how you can peel back those layers.
I love that. Well, even though our stories are very different, the thing about it is it's really not that different, is it? Because it's the human experience. And, that's the part of the power of sharing your story, sharing your message, your mission, sharing your vulnerabilities to create that impact, that ripple effect that you're talking about as well. If we keep these things inside, it's ultimately not helping anybody. And I think of, teaching gratitude, sharing your story, the ultimate form of service, really, because I really do believe that somebody out there somewhere is praying, for the exact remedy that we can provide to them, the exact thing. And they're just praying for you to share your story so that they feel less alone.
Yeah.
And somebody out there who's suffering from depression, because a lot of people are, if they can hear a natural cure, what's that going to do for them and change? How's that going to change their lives, impact not only themselves, their families, their communities, their generations? We don't know.
Right. And
This
one in five Americans right now, will tell you that they are struggling with a mental illness. 1 in 5.
Yeah.
So, the stats are very clear that we need to start doing something differently.
Yes.
We need to take this seriously, and the work that we do with gratitude, both you and I, and so many other beautiful practitioners, we have to really be conscious of the importance of our teaching not being limited to one area of your life, and explaining to people that this needs to permeate every part of your existence, right? You can't just say, I'm going to be a grateful team member at work and then go home and not practice that, because it doesn't work that way, right? It doesn't.
In my language.
Right. I mean, and I know that this is part of your message, that it has to be part of who you are. Tell me about how you communicate that in businesses in companies you're working with.
Absolutely. I just gave a keynote presentation yesterday, and it was about gratitude. It's called The Confidence Blueprint, Building a Strong Foundation. It's based after my TEDx talk. And I wanted the listeners, the audience, to really walk away, not with just temporary motivation. I wanted them to walk away inspired to change their lives and transform their realities through gratitude. So I gave them real examples. And I made sure everybody had a 30-day gratitude journal, even, so that they could continue the practice and report back to me the results. And I'm going to do this journey as well, along with them. And, when we can give people real tangible change, because, during a presentation, people might think, oh, that's great, that's good. Okay, afterwards, now what? What do I do? So I don't want them to have the what now do I do? I want to be able to actually give them that roadmap and say, here it is. Follow along with me, and I will lead you in this journey over the next 30 days. That's powerful. And it's that abundance mindset, I feel like, non-transactional, very relationship driven. How can I continue to add value to your life? When they see someone like that genuinely wants to add value to people's lives, that's just leading by example. That people want to follow that, right? And they want to almost join your circle. It's a trust level there. But I do want to say, Kelly, it was not always this way for me, because, again, going back to, I mentioned that at one point gratitude felt like a foreign concept. What do you mean gratitude? Or that's like some fluffy new age, right? I was cynical. Yeah. I was a cynic. Mm-hmm. I was a bump on a log, if you will, right? I was not fun at all to be around. And it was at that lowest point. You talked about your lowest point. My lowest point was suffering from major depressive disorder and anxiety at the same time. Feeling suicidal. I didn't want to live anymore. And I say that because people are feeling that right now. Yep. According to the World Health Organization, the WHO, depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. People are disabled. They're disabled from their depression.
Yeah.
And if, again, we're focusing on all the darkness, but we need that perspective, right? And that's why I encourage everybody to just tonight go out and look at the night sky, see the perspective. And if you can incorporate gratitude into your daily practice, because it is a lifestyle change, like you mentioned, you'll start to have this really cool ninja mindset. You know what I mean by that, Kelly? I know that sounds funny. Maybe people are laughing too, but I feel like it's like a ninja superpower mindset trick, right?
It absolutely is, because it completely changes how you see things.
Yes. If you, let's see, maybe you have a flat tire on the way to work and you could focus on all of the negative things. I was late to work. I have a flat tire. I don't know how to fix a tire. I also broke my nail when I did that and all these things, right? Or you could say, I'm glad I wasn't injured. I'm glad the rest of my car is okay. You know what?
Right.
Maybe that actually prevented me from a catastrophe.
Yeah.
What if that actually prevented you from a larger accident down the road? Maybe a deer was going to dart out and you would have actually totaled your car. We don't know these things.
Mm.
But you find if you can adopt a gratitude mentality, you start to get that, I call it ninja moves. And you say, oh, I'm so glad I have a flat tire. Just imagine saying, I'm so glad I have a flat tire.
Well,
Find the gratitude.
but that is exactly how my husband and I, that's how we look at our life now. We're like, and when things happen, we always say we pull a Tony Soprano, because we say, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Like Tony Soprano. But we don't let it stop us. And the beautiful thing, and I want to talk to you a bit more about this, is that what I found after my practice deepened and it became part of, who I was and what I did on a daily basis, it creates a bounce, right? So when crap happens, and crap happens all the time, when you have a solid gratitude practice, you can bounce back from things much, much faster. You can put things in perspective. So things that would, I have anxiety. You were talking about depression, and I really dealt and struggled with anxiety after Stephen died. But gratitude reminded me of what was there. And so I was able to, when I would have a negative thought, I was able to put that in its little box and tuck it away and say, no, but there's still good here. It didn't make every day perfect. That's not realistic. But there was something perfect in every day.
Ooh, that was a mic drop moment. I like that. I like that. I know, right? Throw it down, Kelly. So powerful. And I realized as well that gratitude is for me very faith-based as well. It's it's a continuous prayer. And it's a continuous appreciation. And I do believe that, when we can not only express gratitude, but feel it within us, that it's a continuous prayer and it's almost like a direct connection to source. The power, the energy, the enthusiasm you feel is deepened. It lights you up. It gives you energy. And it's such a profound state when you do this in a continuous way over time. And it really compounds the interest, right? It may start off as small. When my daughter was little, I used to get irritated when she'd wake me up every night. Why is she waking me up every night? I can't get a good sleep. No, everybody needs good sleep, right? Yeah. But now I would, because of my continuous gratitude practice, I can say, I'm so glad she trusts me enough that I'm her safe space.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that she's safe at home in her bed. I'm so glad I have a daughter that I love. I'm so glad I love my family. I wouldn't trade them for the world.
Right.
You find the gratitude in anything. And then you know what? You're a lot less grouchy. You're a lot less of a bump on the log. People want to gravitate towards you, be around you. And it's really a magnetism thing. I feel like very much similar to confidence. A really confident person really does attract a lot to them. It is a grateful person.
Yeah, that is really, really true. I completely agree with that. And I also want to bring up mindfulness with gratitude. Because, and I mean, mindfulness, that word, you hear it a lot lately, people talking about living a mindful life. But gratitude, when you are actively seeking gratitude, when you are looking around your life to be grateful, you are in the present moment. And so I want people to think about this for a second. So you're really struggling right now. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you have anxiety. You're going through a job loss or some struggle. Stop, look around your life, and find just one little thing to be grateful for. And in that moment, you are right here, right now. You're not in the past with regret. You're not in the future with worry. You are right here, right now, and you are okay. So you have an opportunity with gratitude to have a moment of reprieve from whatever you're dealing with.
Ooh, I love that.
Right? It's like a little moment of reprieve. You can step in your little timeout room of gratitude and say, okay, I'm just going to catch my breath here and notice what else is around me. And I will tell you that practice, just like you said, with that constant practice and how it deepens, all those little things, they tether together and they form this rope. And I always say, and I'll say this again to anybody who's out there in darkness, that tether those moments together and that rope will lead you back to the light. It will. And so talk to me about mindfulness and what you see on the business landscape in terms of, because I know that people at work were talking about like self-care and all that. And so how does mindfulness and gratitude work together for you?
Yeah. So in business, it's how we connect with others, how we connect with, any relationship that we try to form. For me, it almost acts as an automatic filter. And I told you and your husband Brady about this when I first met you guys. It was maybe the first time we met. And I said that, my daily prayer is not ever for more clients or more business or more customers or more friends. It's bring the aligned people into my life. So how can I bring the aligned people into my life? Well, I have to attract the aligned people. How do I do that? Well, it's self-leadership. So if I want to attract confidence, I need to present myself confidently. If I want to attract gratitude and grateful and positive-minded people into my life, then I'm first going to display gratitude within myself.
Right.
And you do this, you pick the traits that you really, what do you really want? I really want to grow confidence. I would love to be able to have that ninja mindset Tara's talking about, where I can just reframe things really quickly, like a Rubik's Cube. Or maybe I want to stop ruminating thoughts. Maybe I want to be a better communicator for my team. Start with gratitude. It's the simplest thing you can do that you can start immediately today. That's going to get you a little closer to all of those goals. Because you know what? You start with gratitude. How does that, people may be thinking, how's that going to help with my communication skills? Begin your conversations with somebody else with an expression of gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
Kelly,
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for this opportunity to meet with you today and be on your amazing podcast, and you be on my podcast, and for us to expand together and grow together. Isn't that amazing? Like, of course, the other person's excited and feels
exactly
increase.
And in a business situation, and having been in positions of leadership myself and having to have difficulty or difficult conversations with employees from time to time, it happens. Beginning those conversations with recognizing that not all is bad, right? So starting and setting the tone as a manager or a VP or wherever you are on the ladder, when you are dealing with an employee situation and it's stressful because confrontation is just, it's a stressful thing. Nobody wants to do it, right? But everybody has potential. Even when you have to talk to them about something difficult, look for the potential and highlight that at the beginning of the conversation, because you are telling that person you still believe in them. Yes. And that's going to give them the strength to improve their performance. Yeah. So gratitude, I mean, that's gratitude applied to a crappy meeting where you have to tell somebody that they did something wrong. So really it's applicable in every situation.
Absolutely. And, this is any human brain. So this applies to all of us. When we hear something, so let's say we're in an exchange of a conversation with somebody else, the information, the words they say goes into the base of our brains, right? That's like they call the primitive area of our brains. Mm-hmm. Then it has to make this traverse, right? It has to traverse all of this area of your brain and go through the limbic system. This is your I feel here area before it makes all its way to finally that prefrontal cortex area, which is the I think rationally way over here area. So imagine you're starting a conversation with somebody and they perceive it's negative. No matter what you say, they're going to feel it first emotionally. They feel words just like you feel words, just like all of us feel before we can actually rationalize.
Yeah.
So how do you take a conversation and make it automatically where that other person is receptive to our message and feels comfortable with us?
Yeah.
Well, we start a conversation with gratitude. Yeah. And if you start that conversation with gratitude, it'll enter in the base of their brain. It'll travel through their limbic system, the feel center, and they'll actually feel your expression of gratitude toward them, opening up their receptivity to you. And then they're not walled up. Their barriers are down. They're much more keen to listen to what you're saying. And when you do this with enough time, I'm not saying it's going to be perfect the first time, but just try this out and try this with your family at home. Try it with yourself, because everybody talks to themselves and we all have self-talk, Kelly. Hello.
Oh, yes, we do.
How many conversations do we have with ourselves that are very positive? Not many, usually, right?
Not many. Not many.
Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that? I can't believe I failed at this. Look at that person. They're so much better than me. Right?
It's so true. It's so easy for our mind to go there. Especially when we're passing judgment on ourselves. It's not a good thing, but you have to train your mind to get past that too, because it just happens quite naturally, doesn't it?
Yes. And that's, again, applying this concept of the self-talk with gratitude. What if every time you caught yourself doing it, you reframed it and said one little thing that you're grateful for yourself, instead of saying, oh man, that person is such a better author than me. They got this huge book deal and here I am self-publishing. You published. You got so much farther ahead than 99% of the population with your goal, and you actually reached your goal. Be happy and proud of yourself in that moment and congratulate yourself.
Yeah.
This not only builds that virtuous cycle of gratitude, but it also builds a stronger self-concept to where you're not as reliant on the opinions of external validation that you once were. And you can finally feel wholeness and completeness and fulfillment without the reliance of anything else outside of you. That's pretty powerful.
That is powerful. I want to switch gears for a second, and this is going to be funny because I'm going to admit something to you, but prepare yourself. So I want to talk to you about, we talked about, being kind of cynical at the beginning. And I was very much there too, cynical about this whole gratitude thing. I was, don't have time for that. Right. So, that you run into a lot of people who just kind of maybe quirk their head a little bit and say, like, what are you talking about? I'm going to admit something on this podcast today. I actually got kicked out of a bereavement group for being too positive. Now, okay, let's just sit with that for a minute.
I am so sorry. That is incredible to me.
I called my husband and I said, how does it feel? And he said, how does it feel? What? What are you talking about? I said, how does it feel to be married to someone who got kicked out of a bereavement group? Now, I don't fault them because I was talking about something that they weren't used to talking about. I was asking people about gratitude. And this was like very early on in my grief journey. Now, I do wish that he had understood that I was seeking alignment with somebody else who may be doing the same thing. But that's okay because he wasn't ready to hear that. So that's fine. I'm not in any way holding a grudge against any bereavement group. No names will be mentioned. But it was a great pushback. And I will tell you, it stunted me for a minute. He pushed back and I retreated and I said, oh, maybe this is not the right way to be doing this. I don't, because I was still feeling very, very lost at that moment. So, but I have a very supportive husband who was like, you keep going. Like, no, this is, we were doing this as a family. It wasn't just me looking for one little thing. We were doing that as a family every day. So I had to self-talk and push myself past the people who thought I was some sort of crazy Pollyanna person looking for gratitude in a bereavement group. Okay. And so I pushed forward and I kept going. And I'm so glad that I did because, years later now, here we are talking together about gratitude. But tell me about, I know that you've met with this pushback. I know that you have. So tell me about an experience where you've encountered pushback like that and how did you handle it?
Wait, how long is this show? No. I could go on for days. Oh my gosh. Well, when I developed my GRASS method. So the GRASS method stands for gratitude, responsibility, action, site, purpose. It's the 5-step method I use to change my life, and I've helped other people do the same. And it's based on my first book and now my podcast. So I met a lot of pushback from that the development of GRASP. I had plenty of people tell me that action was never supposed to be in the middle. Action is your first step. This isn't gonna work. To which I said, what about strategy? Because I can hop in an airplane. I can take action. I could hop in an airplane, get in the captain's seat right now, maybe turn it on and move it around. But if I don't have a basis of knowledge, is that really going to benefit anyone?
Right.
So that was my pushback to that person. But anyway, yes, I had plenty of pushback and people saying, hey, I've had really bad things happen to me in my life, in my past. Maybe they've had a lot of trauma, Kelly, happen to them. And they think there is nothing to be grateful for.
Yep.
Because they've had a lot of bad things happen to them in their life. And there's people they simply cannot forgive. And that was a lot of the pushback I got as well. And that's, their journey. What I know is my deepest inner truth is that bearing resentment, unforgivingness, not letting of things go, and harboring negative ill will, either towards someone else, towards yourself, having regret. These are all extremely negative emotions, negative vibrations, negative energies. And our bodies have a unique way of storing these energies.
Mm. We're learning more and more about that every month. I find a new article, and I'm a big fan of holistic healing. So, acupuncture and all those wonderful things have helped me greatly in my health and my emotional health too, in terms of my anxiety. And it's a very natural way to go on a path to health. But people do push back. And then you have to kind of decide, am I going to keep pushing this topic with this individual, or do I have to let them find their way back when they're ready?
Yes.
And that's a good lesson to learn for anybody out there who is trying something new, is don't be surprised when you get pushback, right? Don't be surprised. Don't be afraid of it. Stand in your truth. And I received some very good advice when I was in the thick of change management with a merger one time. And we talked about, you've got your strong supporters, you've got your strong dissent, and then you've got your fence sitters. It's go for the fence, go for the people sitting on the fence. Because if you spend too much time trying to convince people who don't want to be convinced, you're going to lose your message. You're going to lose those people sitting on the fence too. Yeah. And it was really wise advice. Shout out to Vicky. Thank you so much. She was the communications and PR person and a beautiful soul, who taught me a ton. But it was a really good lesson for me, because I realized, okay, Kelly, it's not your responsibility to bring everybody to the water to drink, right?
I say that quote all the time. I can lead a horse to water. I can't make you drink.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all of our choices, and we're free will individuals.
Yeah.
And again, you can look at that two ways. You can look at that and say, a lot has happened to me in my life. None of that was your choice. Things that happened to you may not have been your choice.
No.
They did happen though, and it doesn't make you a bad person. There's nothing about your past that you can ever change, but it's about finding space and holding space for what it shaped you into who you are.
Right.
And I mean, that's how it was for me. I wouldn't say I grew up in the best circumstances. I had alcoholic father who was abusive, and I was the youngest of 5, and he did not have a steady job. And when he was around, you didn't want him around.
Mm.
So I grew up my childhood just on eggshells, causing this, what did I say? Record playing of anxiety and sadness and fight or flight. Yeah. It was conditioned behavior, just like you're marinating a turkey and continuing to baste it. And I was just reliving that all the time. And in order for me to let go of those things, that feeling like every day is Groundhog Day, I had to forgive. And I had to find the gratitude in those things and in those experiences. And for me, it was, okay, you know what? I didn't like it at the time. It wasn't what I wanted. But what did it shape me into? How did it shape me? Well, it made me more resilient.
Yeah.
I'm more tenacious.
Yeah.
Probably. And you know what? Maybe it made me a lot stronger too. And it might have even made me more vulnerable and relatable to others. Well, great. Those are all great qualities. Now, how can you translate them into exponential personal growth, right? Well, continue to have gratitude for them.
Yeah.
And that was a huge first step for me, was that gratitude. And that's why I call it in my TEDx talk a foundation of confidence. I do believe for me, it was layers. It was first that gratitude for who I was. If I could find the gratitude for who I was and that journey I was on, I felt like the next step was going to get a lot easier. Do you relate to that?
I absolutely do. And I'm just thinking about all of our listeners out there. And the whole purpose of me, I've been wanting to have a podcast for years, and you were just telling your story, and I just feel very grateful, because this is what I wanted to do for years, is I wanted other people to tell their stories, because what happens is that you are giving them this flicker of light in their own darkness. And you're saying, you know what? I was here and now I'm here, and this is how I got there. And that is the power of storytelling, of telling our stories and speaking our truth. That was my hope for telling my story, is I want to help other people in their darkness. And what greater role could we have on this earth? Really.
It's such an act of service. And, we'll never meet all of the listeners that are tuning into this right now, but I just want to say to everyone out there, regardless of what you're going through in life, you can absolutely overcome, and you can do great things. And truly, if I can do it, anyone can do it. If Kelly can do it, anyone can do it.
Yep.
There's nothing miraculous about us, although I think Kelly's pretty miraculous. But, I'm a little biased, just a smidge.
You are.
I'm a little biased, I guess. But I truly think that this is for anybody, right? And the great thing about this is it requires no additional resources, no additional IQ points, no additional money or anything. This is something that is accessible to all, and anyone can benefit from. And Kelly, if you wouldn't mind, I would love to say a passage out of my book for a little inspiration, if that's okay.
Ooh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I want to give people just a little bit of inspiration for their day ahead. Your existence is a miracle of nature. As incredible as it sounds, the odds of each of us being alive is said to be greater than 1 in 400 trillion. This seemingly incredible calculation is almost unfathomable and is enough to give anyone pause and perspective. Think about it. All of history has compiled and conspired to bring you to life. This nearly undefinable odds that you are reading this book or listening to this podcast right now is seemingly impossible, and yet here you are. With air breathing in your chest and a beating heart.
That's beautiful. I love that.
When we think about it, you just won the lottery today.
Yeah.
Every day you woke up, you won the lottery. This is 1 in 400 trillion. I'm not a math person, but that's a lot of zeros.
It is.
Think about, right? And when you think about it that way, this life is a gift.
Mm-hmm.
Have gratitude for it.
It absolutely is a gift. So we need to say thank you. We really do. Before we go, I want to circle back a little bit about trauma. Because I started talking about, kind of the pushback, but I want to circle back about trauma, because from my reading, and I'm sure you have too, we're learning that we store trauma in our organs. We keep it, we hold on to it. And so talk to me about forgiveness. I will tell you that there was one situation after Stephen passed. I needed to work on forgiveness for one particular reason. And it was tough. It was tough to kind of, but then I realized that you can't stand in the light while looking for the dark.
Yeah.
So I had to make a choice, because I feel when I'm in the light and when I'm doing this work and when I'm helping people, I feel Stephen. I feel him around me, not in a Halloween ghost kind of way, but I just feel his spirit and love around me when I do good. And I had to, I had to forgive because I couldn't let that go. I couldn't let that important piece of my soul go by being stuck in a pattern of resentment. Talk to me about forgiveness and how you've handled it in your life.
Yes. Well, I also want to mention, we talk about trauma and where you feel it in the body. I felt it in my heart, and not in the metaphorical sense. My heartbeat would actually skip pretty regularly to where I had to feel like I had to cough in order to get it to almost be normal, literally.
Okay.
Yes, interesting, right? And I could feel it felt like a cage around my heart. And I was not forgiving. So it was hard for me to really connect with people at this time. I felt like I had to sabotage a relationship or so, because if I didn't, they would just hurt me, because that was the record on repeat.
Yeah.
So I had this wall around my heart in more ways than one. Yes, it felt like it, but it really, I can't even explain it. It really felt like there was a wall around my heart. Once I started to forgive, once I started to practice mindfulness, meditation, once I started to put myself first, practice gratitude, I haven't had that problem since.
That's wonderful.
So yes, it does get stored in the body. I am not an expert at how emotions are regulated or stored. I can only speak to my personal experience and what I felt. But it did feel like that. And it almost was if I was keeping the best part of me sheltered off from the world. It's very powerful. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. They, people may be listening to this thinking like, I relate to that. And there were other symptoms, when I was suffering from anxiety deeply, it would feel as if I couldn't catch my breath.
Yeah.
There was never enough air. I mean, literally, I could take the deepest breath and it wasn't satisfying. So it was so much of it was in my chest, and just letting that go. Oh my gosh, I can't even tell you what that feels like. It feels like you have a weight on your chest, and then you start to forgive, you start to have gratitude, you start to find the good in any situation. That trauma starts to dissipate over time, and all of a sudden, that weight is gone. There's nothing better than breathing without thinking about it. And if you have anxiety, you know what I'm talking about. When you have that weight of depression, you know what I'm talking about, Kelly.
Yep. I have been there where I didn't think I was going to be able to get a breath in. I've had some moments where I've been debilitated by anxiety. Moments where I've retreated from social situations because of anxiety. And I recognize that in myself. And, talking about trauma and forgiveness, I want to tell you a story about a woman that I met. Just a quick little story about forgiveness, because every time I think that I can't forgive someone, I think about this beautiful soul. So I met her at a writer's conference, and she had lost 2 of her children, little girls, in a violent way, in violence.
Oh my gosh.
And, without getting too detailed about it, she was at that abyss, just like I was. And she had Post-it notes, and in her house, she put Post-it notes all over her walls, her fridge, her windows, wherever she could put them, with one word on it: forgive. And she looked at those Post-it notes every single day. And she told me that as each month would pass, because that's what her intention was when she would look at these everywhere she went. That's all she could see around her house, right? And as she started to heal, as she started to process things, because that doesn't excuse, forgiveness does not excuse the mistake, right? It doesn't excuse the wrong that has been done. Forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself so that you can heal. It doesn't mean that you're saying that what happened was okay, not by any stretch. But month after month, she would take one more Post-it note down until finally she took the last one down and she could say that she forgave. And I think about her every week. I think about her and I say, well, if she could forgive, then you certainly can.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's always someone out there.
Yeah.
That they would swap situations with you in a second. They would swap lives with you in a second.
Yep.
And that story right there is exactly correct. And it gives us that perspective, right? Because, someday, and we all do this, nobody's exempt from this because we're all human beings. And there's some days I think about, oh, I'm so stressed. I've got this and that and this and that. And then I reframe it and say, people would kill to have my problems.
Yep.
They would kill to have a deadline. They would kill to write a book. They would kill to meet amazing people. They would kill for this. And here I am complaining about it.
Right.
So powerful to know that any of us, someone out there is wanting exactly what we have.
That's so true. Tara, I mean, I could talk to you for another 2 hours.
I know.
I mean, it's just ridiculous. We've been all over the place. It's been wonderful.
I know.
But before we go, because you have this wonderful new book, and I want people to know about the books that you've written and how they can help you. Can you tell us about your books?
Absolutely. So my first book, How to Grasp Confidence and Own Your Power, is available on Amazon. And I have a new book as well called Talk Your Way to the Top. And that book is about how to write a TED Talk, how to land a TED Talk, and how to market it for success. I realized that through my journey of sharing my story on that stage, how much it transformed my life.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to help other people who are thought leaders, who have a mission and a vision to share with the world, to be able to navigate that path and transverse it a lot easier. So that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
I've already, you know me though, Kelly, and I'm just like you. I've got a third and fourth at least in there. Maybe a fifth, right? I don't know if I'll ever stop.
There's always a draft Word document.
Oh my gosh. I have 2 already. It's insane. I'm like, I guess I never want a vacation again, right?
That's so wonderful. And I love that your approach to business, it's kind of the approach with gratitude. It's a little old fashioned, isn't it? It's back to the basic human kindness. And I love that. We need more of that in this world. So thank you so much for your work, Tara, because you're doing important stuff. I mean, you've impacted my life greatly. You really have.
And same with you, Kelly. It's been a true pleasure. And, let the relationship deepen, just like gratitude. The beautiful thing of it is, and love can deepen. Gratitude can deepen. All of this can deepen. And you get into that level of appreciation for yourself, for others. Oh my gosh, you will change the world. Success is inevitable at that point. So
that's so true. Well, Tara, thank you so much. And it's been such a pleasure to be on your podcast too.
Yes. Thank you, Kelly. I know it's fun. Well, wonderful. I guess we will see each other. Well, this shouldn't be the last interview though.
Oh, no. No. I mean, we have Word documents to talk about.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Kelly.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. And don't forget to check out Tara's books. They're fantastic. Take care.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Grasp Confidence. Thank you for joining me today and investing in yourself. Remember, building confidence is an ongoing journey, and each step you take brings you closer to the empowered, fearless version of yourself that you were born to be. Don't forget to visit my website, follow me on social media, and purchase my book, which is available on Amazon. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next episode. Stay confident.